Yo, what is going on? Welcome to Longevity Starts Young. My name is Dez, and in this video, I am going to be showing you how I plan nutritious meals every single week that taste good and that are simple and that fit my particular taste. I think that this video is going to save so many people so much time, headache, and I really do think that my system around building meals is the best one that you'll ever find. And I say that because I mainly care about my long-term health, my health right now, but also sustainability and simplicity. That's so important for me, okay? I think that a lot of people end up making bad food choices because they're trying to follow something or build a system that is too in-depth, too many steps. I think that that is true for not only just nutrition, but also fitness, and people just get to a point where it's so overwhelming that they just give up. I have been on a journey for the last 9 years to find something that is sustainable for me, for my long-term health, and this is gonna be based around how I build meals for a whole food, plant-based diet. Hey guys, really quick, I just wanted to interrupt and just tell you a little bit about my whole food, plant-based roadmap for beginners. I would highly recommend that you guys check this out. Essentially in here, I help you build a recipe from scratch the same way that I do it. It also goes through kind of the basic fundamentals of whole food plant-based dieting. We literally walk you through how to build a meal from scratch or build a meal from an already existing recipe and make it your own. There's a few starter recipes in here, and then also I help you actually implement the system that I use for building a nutritious meal actually inside of the workbook. I give you tips on how to utilize AI to help you come up with amazing recipe ideas, recipes that resonate with you specifically and your taste. And I also even include prompts that you can use to grade your weekly meal planning to make sure that you're getting all different types of food groups and diversity in your meals every single week. For a limited time, you can access this for free inside of my community, Longevity Starts Young. So if you want to check it out, just click the link in the description. Let's get back to the video. So I'm gonna walk you through exactly how I build nutritious, tasty meals every single week. So like I said, I like simplicity. That means that I do not like building stuff from scratch as much as possible. Also, I'm not a chef. You might be, but I'm not. So when it comes to like making nutritious meals every single week, relying on my own brain every single week is not a good idea because I've made some things that turned out trash. So how do we avoid that? What I do is I start with a recipe that works, right? What do I mean by that? I like to start with cookbooks, YouTube videos, blogs, Instagram posts. Wherever I find something that looks like it could be good, I start with that. The reason why I do that is because it gives me a base to build from. I don't just use that recipe as what it is unless it's just absolutely amazing. But I use that as a base to then start building the recipe around what I particularly like. The types of flavor profiles, seasonings, etc., etc. The key for me is to find something that is straightforward, that looks appealing, that looks easy, that I can make on a repeat basis so that I can start building a library of meals that I love and can go to at any time. When I first make it, I make it as the original, right? If I love it, then it'll move on to the next stage. If I don't like it, then I'm probably not gonna make it again. Pretty simple, right? Let's say I love it. This is where it starts to get a little bit fun because this allows us to get creative and starts to ask ourselves, what is missing? Like, how can I make this recipe even better than what it is? This is how I start to mold it and make it personal to me. So if I enjoyed the meal the first time, then the next week, I'm gonna remix it. So what does that look like? I'll be asking myself things like, I wonder what it would taste like if we added something sweet, or maybe if we added a little bit of spice, or maybe if we made it a little bit more warm and savory, right? Or brightened it up a little bit with some citrus. Those are the type of questions that make my brain start to think a little bit of how we can take this meal to the next level, but then also how we can make it our own. I will show you exactly how I did this. I tried it on some lentil soup. Where I found it was in this cookbook right here, How Not to Die Cookbook. And I chose this cookbook specifically because All of the recipes are specifically built around longevity, disease prevention, disease reversal, which is what I care about the most when it comes to my long-term health. So I thought, why not go ahead and use this cookbook to get a lot of good recipes. So I started with the lentil soup. Here it is right here. If I can scroll down, sorry, my mouse is like acting crazy. Let's see, let's scroll down. Can we scroll down? There we go. Nope, not that one. Here's the lentil soup that I used as a base. I want you to take note. It's easy. Difficulty is easy. That's what I care about. Oh, sorry. That's what I care about the most when it comes to making meals on repeat. Is it easy? And does it taste good? So that's a good starting point for me specifically. I made this recipe as is. I literally took this recipe, I made it, it was really good. But then I started to ask myself, like, what can we add to make this recipe even better? So I started thinking back to a soup that I had in Vietnam when I lived over in Vietnam. And they had pumpkin inside of the soup. Completely different soup, but I used to love the way that the pumpkin added like a sweetness to that particular soup. And I thought to myself, what if I added pumpkin in this lentil soup? I wonder how that would taste. So I went to the store, couldn't find pumpkin, found butternut squash, and I added it to it, right? One ingredient made a completely different change and really leveled up that soup. And I make it every single week now. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is such a cheat code. Do you understand what's going on? We just took a basic recipe, added one ingredient, and it just made it something that much better. And we can do this with every single meal that we make. Oh my gosh. Like, do you see how excited I am? Because I was never able to cook. And this is like allowing me to feel like I'm a cook and making it my own. Anyways, let me get back to it. So you might be asking yourself, what if I don't know what to add to the meal to make it even better? I'm gonna show you. So when it comes to adding in different ingredients into your recipes, first you can start by trying to be creative. Like I said, thinking of some past meals that you've had to see if it would taste good in the current meal that you're making. But then also, remember guys, we are living in the age of AI. AI has been essentially a personal assistant for me when it comes to building out healthy, tasty, nutritious meals every single week. But also we can just phone a friend and ask them what they think would make it even better. I always ask my parents or I'll ask my wife what she thinks would make a recipe even better. And sometimes just a little recommendation may be something that takes that recipe to the next level. The whole point is that we don't have to come up with everything ourselves. We can outsource it to other people or we can outsource it to AI to help us out. For example, I wanted to add pumpkin to my lentil soup, but I couldn't find none in the store because it's out of season. So I ended up asking a guy in the store if he thought butternut squash would be good in my lentil soup. Turns out the dude actually grows butternut squash in his garden at his house, and he gave me like the whole flavor profile of butternut squash. I've never had butternut squash before that point, but he gave me some good insight and he was like, yo, I think this is probably the best option that you can put in your lentil soup if you're trying to like add just a little bit of like savory sweetness to your soup. He was right. That joker is amazing. Like, I eat it every single week. I added a little bit more things to it. You know, I added some chili powder. I added a little bit of high quality olive oil. I've added some lime along with the squash. So I've continually mixed it up and manipulated it to really become something that I absolutely love. And then remember, like, this process is flexible. You can take one recommendation from a person, you can plug that into AI and then ask it, based on this recommendation, what do you think I could add on to it to make it even better, right? There's so many different variations. But just remember, this is not flexible. You can try and mix and do different things to try to make your meals more robust and build them towards your personal taste. So literally what I did, I came here to this lentil recipe after I made it the first time and I liked it. I took the ingredients, pasted it into ChatGPT, and I might say something like, what is one ingredient that I can add to take this meal to the next level? I am looking to add some savory sweetness that will really add some contrast to my meal. I switch it up with the prompt sometimes, but I do have a prompt inside of my workbook that you can utilize. So it actually recommended 2 to 3 medium carrots. So that's cool, but I would say that I'm looking for something a little bit sweeter. So I'll probably just say that. I'm looking for something a little sweeter. By the way, I follow a whole food plant-based diet. Okay, so we have dates. I never tried dates in a lentil soup, but that's something that we can go with. Maybe even sweet potato could possibly add some of that savory sweetness. So I may ask about that, right? Or I may tell it to give me like 10 different distinct variations of ingredients that I can add. And then we can kind of play around with those ingredients to find something that I think will be worth testing, right? So it doesn't have to be particularly like this, but you kind of get where I'm going to get ideas from AI. So I actually ended up making this meal with my own variations. I got the butternut squash in it. I added some lime. I paired it with some sourdough bread, and bro, oh my gosh. This meal is so good. I make it every single week because it's just that good. This is what happens when we start with a base and then we build it up. We don't have to be gourmet chefs. We can make something delicious by just taking a little piece of what somebody else doing, adding our own little twist to it, and then making it something completely different. Understand? So then once you plan out what meals you're gonna eat, right? You can do this method for breakfast, lunch, dinner, have at it. Sometimes what I like to do is kind of score my meals for the week. So like I said, I love Dr. Greger. I follow his stuff essentially for building out my meals and making sure that I'm eating a diversity of different plant foods. And I kind of built a matrix based on his daily dozen to rank my meals for the week. So essentially what I'll do is I'll pop it into ChatGPT and I'll ask it based on these 13 categories, which is Dr. Greger's daily dozen. Also, I have a category for prioritizing protein in my meals because that's very important. I essentially tell ChatGPT to rank all of my different meals for the week and tell me how does it rank on a scale of 1 to 10 and what are some different things that I can incorporate in that week's meals to essentially get it to a 10 out of 10. And I'll show you what that looks like. So here, if you actually go in the plant-based roadmap that I built that's free in the link in the description, you will actually see the prompt that I use. So you can literally just copy this prompt and I literally just put in all of my meals that I'm planning for the week inside of the prompt. There's a space for it and it ranked my meals, right? Usually I'm aiming for an 8 out of 10. I'm not aiming for perfection because perfection breaks down over time. And like I said, I'm looking for simplicity. I'm looking for sustainability. I don't have to be perfect to have a healthy, high quality of life. Based on what I'm eating for the next week, I got an 8.8 out of 10. That's good enough for me. But the beautiful thing is, if I wanted to take it a step further, I can figure out how to get it to a 10 out of 10. ChatGPT tells me what I do extremely well, right? The different legumes, greens, spices, healthy fats. And then it also gives me the specific things that I can add to take my score from an 8.8 to a 10. I know that I struggle with fruit variety in my diet. I know that I do, and I'm working on it. ChatGPT gives me one thing that I can add the next week to start moving me in the right direction. So I already have banana, mango, and grapefruit, but it's recommended that I add a kiwi because it has a different nutrient profile that can help me with diversity. So that's essentially how I find different ways to boost my nutrition by using ChatGPT. I think this is so helpful because it allows us to outsource a lot of the headache and a lot of the planning and a lot of the thinking that comes around just trying to eat healthy. And I think this is so helpful. Now, lastly, as a bonus, I do this from time to time, which is building a meal from ingredients that you already love. Now, this does take a little bit extra to figure out what pieces match together. But for example, I love sweet potato, so I'm always trying to find ways to utilize sweet potato in my meals. and I use that as the anchor. So for example, I seen a video on Instagram of a lady making taco shells, like soft taco shells or like wraps out of sweet potatoes. So I'm thinking already like, yo, I can figure out what to put on the inside if I just make the wraps. I know I'm gonna love the wraps because it's sweet potato and I love sweet potato. So I could possibly put like some tofu scramble up in there with some diced tomatoes, maybe a little bit of black beans with cilantro, onion, garlic, a little bit of olive oil. So as you can see, I'm building my meal around starting with the sweet potato wraps and then figuring everything else out as I go along. I also like to keep things very simple. So for example, I built a meal around sweet potato right here. It's very, very simple. Most probably call it a poor man's meal because it's just rice, black beans, and sweet potato on top. And this is actually one of my favorite meals because it's just a big old fat, juicy piece of sweet potato just laid out on top, looking all beautiful, filleted and roasted. Oh my God, come on now. This is what it looks like to actually make food that you're excited to eat, that's healthy. Like once we can actually figure out how to make healthy, nutritious meals on repeat, it becomes so fun to figure out what your limits are and what your creativity embodies, because we can actually start building things that taste good. So that is essentially my process. And I believe wholeheartedly that this will help you in some capacity. I think that the way I build my meals out is one of the best out there because it's targeted towards regular everyday people who don't have the time, the energy to really put into building out, you know, gourmet meals from scratch and all this extra stuff. I wholeheartedly believe that it will help you out. And if it does, please leave a comment down below and let me know, because if this helps you, then I want to make more videos kind of around the things that I do in my life that I think are just normal, but could be life-saving for other people. If you enjoyed this video, like I said, leave it in a comment down below. Also, be sure to check out the free whole food plant-based workbook. It's free for right now, but it won't be forever. Thank you so much for watching and supporting this channel. If you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. We're new to YouTube, and I just want to make sure that I'm building with people who enjoy content like this. So thank you and peace.